So you say you're tired of the same old every New Year's? Counter Knighton serves up some mochi.
With mallets and machines. These volunteers in Northern California are pounding grains of rice into a new form in preparation for the new year.
One more!
They're making mochi, a doughy rice cake that's just water, steamed sweet rice, and a whole lot of elbow grease.
This event is called mochi tsuki, mochi and tsuki. That means making mochi or pounding mochi.
Russ Nakano is a member of California's Mountain View Buddhist Temple.
How are you doing, Misao?
Where, each December, hundreds of helpers, spanning generations, use the temple's gymnasium to stage a bake sale of sorts. One that doesn't involve any actual baking.
So even though we're in a place of worship, this is not a religious tradition necessarily.
No, not at all. It's just a kind of a Japanese tradition.
Yeah.
While mochi is eaten year-round in Japan, and increasingly here in the US, where mochi-wrapped ice cream can be found in grocery store freezers, it takes on special significance on New Year's Day.
If you're going to go home to see your family, New Year's is the time to do it. It's the most important holiday in Japan, and eating mochi is a really important part of the most important family-oriented day.
Emily Anderson is the curator of the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles. When Japanese laborers arrived in the US in the 1800s, they brought their foods and their traditions with them.
Do you think the large-scale mochi-making gatherings are more common now outside of Japan than they are in Japan? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's certainly easier to just buy mochi in Japan, but it's more than that. In the US, a mochitsuki, like this one in Oakland, California,
that feels good to me. You want to try it?
is a way for a community to come together.
For a lot of Japanese Americans, the actual making of mochi is a way of reclaiming pride and appreciation for who they are and saying that these are things not to be ashamed of. These are things to celebrate.
I think the tradition should continue. I think it's good for our young people to know some of the old traditions, you know.
During World War II, when more than 120,000 people of Japanese descent were forcibly removed from their homes and incarcerated in camps, there was still mochi for the new year. The families insisted on it.
In this time when they've lost everything, when they feel abandoned by their own country, where they're going to fight back and say, like, I know we can't get much from you, but this much we're going to demand of you. Bring us our mochi rice. We need this for our New Year's.
When it comes to flavor, mochi is more of a texture than a taste.
Mochi itself is very bland. You got to have something with it.
On New Year's Day, mochi is often eaten in a savory soup called ozoni. It can be stuffed with sweet red bean paste or toasted and adorned with toppings.
What do you recommend?
I recommend this one. It's soy sauce and sugar mixed together. It's my favorite.
Oh, wow.
It's common to stack mochi as an offering before consuming it, in hopes for health and prosperity in the year ahead. But for those who grew up making and eating it with their families, it also offers a taste of nostalgia for years gone by.
It reminds us of who we are, who we come from, who our friends and family are, of like happy memories. And all of that can be sort of embodied in this very simple little morsel of rice cake.
Today we're gonna make baked Alaska.
We're gonna be making a baked Alaska.
It seems like once a generation, chefs rediscover the kind of odd, old-fashioned delight that is the baked Alaska.
A majestic classic that when conquered is truly the mark of a master chef.
And while it can be hard to find on a menu, one place you can get it is at Castaway, perched high above Burbank, California. All thanks to pastry chef Elisa Garcia.
When you come in and you see that there's like 20 baked Alaskas ordered, are you like, this is going to be a long day?
No, it's easy.
Garcia's version of easy, a 12-hour saga with brown sugar cake layered with frozen bananas and 2 different types of banana ice cream.
Go
work
for it.
best.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna start.
slowing you down.
It's okay.
Then comes the meringue, and remember, this is ice cream, the flames. The final product, a crunchy, warm exterior and frosty, cold interior.
It's a paradoxical food. You've got hot and you've got cold, and they're not supposed to coexist.
Food historian Jim Chevalier says there's no shortage of tall tales about the dessert, and none of them are true.
When foods come along, people don't notice them. They make them, they eat them. A lot of the history is not done by historians. It's maintained by practitioners, by bakers and cooks.
Although Chevalier says people were eating baked ice cream early in the 19th century, the first recipe for the dish that would become the Baked Alaska wasn't published until 1894 in a cookbook by Charles Ranhofer, the chef here at Delmonico's in New York City, thought to be America's first fine dining restaurant. Currently owned by this guy, Dennis Tursinovic.
Think about the amount of labor that was put into the Baked Alaska to make ice cream. You had the ice trade, wooden and metal churns to produce the cream. It was pretty complicated to make the dish.
More than 100 years later, it's still challenging chefs. Proof positive, maybe, that everything old is new again.
How about a little dessert from Jonathan Vigliotti?
At a strip mall in Anaheim, California, nestled between a dry cleaner's and a car stereo shop, is a bakery with a centuries-old treat. Forged by hand and hammer. Bouza is baker Maher Nakel's confectionery tribute to his native home of Damascus, Syria, where what's often considered the world's first ice cream was first served more than 500 years ago.
It's not quite like the American ice cream we all know. How would you describe it?
It's completely different. When you eat the Bouza, you eat like a gum. When you put it in your mouth, you're gonna feel a couple of seconds in your mouth, you enjoy with it. So that's the secret with it.
Nakel first discovered the secret at this 18th century market inside the over 100-year-old Bakdash ice cream parlor where he worked as a teen. The ice cream is less licking, more chewing, a prized texture that begins with a closely guarded recipe.
What are the ingredients in your Bouza?
You wanna take my secret, huh? The ingredient is coming from the milk. You have to be a rich milk, heavy milk, 16%. You get sugar. More important is the sahlab and the mastica.
Salab, a type of sweetening powder made of ground roots, adds density. Mastica, which is a tree resin and similar to gelatin, adds that taffy-like stretch. Rosewater gives flavor. But elbow grease is the most important ingredient, along with Nakel's traditional ice-cold $12,000 Bouza machine, imported from Damascus. He first spreads the batter in the ice-cold barrel. Once frozen, he scrapes down every ounce. Then comes the pistachios and that pounding.
This is the first time I've pounded ice cream, so.
You're a man.
This takes some muscle.
All this muscle helps activate the ingredients.
That's incredible.
Which rise together kind of like a dough.
Can you taste the difference between Bouza that is handmade?
Yes, because this machine make it more showy, like a gum.
So the stretcher it is,
exactly,
the more it was made by hand.
Today, his Bouza is a handmade homage to a country now shattered by Syria's decade-old civil war.
A lot of work for one scoop.
Yet with every scoop, an escape back to better times.
I have one customer come from Chicago. They buy like four rolls.
What goes on in your mind as you're making Bouza?
I feel like I'm 16 years old, you know. I love it. I love my job.
It's rare to find someone who doesn't love chocolate. But there's something about one of our favorite treats you may not know. Its key ingredient comes from places that don't always benefit from our obsession. Seth Doan has a report that's bittersweet.
Your house is here.
Just here. Work is here.
Kim Addison is on a culinary and cultural mission of sorts to change our perception of chocolate.
When we think of chocolate, we think, Switzerland, Belgium, or France, but never Ghana, never Cote d'Ivoire, and those are the two largest producers of cocoa in the world. So how is it that we're not known for our chocolate?
She's trying to change that, with 15 employees working from this modest space in the African nation of Ghana.
What was this building before it was a chocolate factory?
It was actually my parents' first house.
Kim and her sister Priscilla, Ghanaians who grew up in America and around the world, are part of a growing effort to keep some of the profits from the $100 billion chocolate industry here. They started their own company, 57 Chocolate.
57 Chocolate, it's short for 1957, which was Ghana's independence. But it's not just about Ghana being free from colonial rule. It's more about the spirit behind Ghana's independence. Hey, as Ghanaians, as Africans, we can do this.
As a businesswoman, she's motivated by some numbers that do not make sense to her. 2/3 of the world's cacao, the raw ingredient that's roasted and used to make chocolate, is grown in the African nations of Côte d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast and Ghana. Yet Africa produces just 1% of the world's chocolate. The biggest chocolate makers are in the US and Europe, which is where most of the money goes to. Chocolate's story is certainly not all sweet. There are continuing issues of trafficking children to work on plantations for little or no pay, an issue that touches even US consumers. A new lawsuit alleges Customs and Border Protection ignored evidence that child labor was involved in harvesting cocoa for major U.S. candy makers. The agency told us it cannot comment on pending litigation. Today, the Department of Labor estimates that 1.5 million children still work illegally on cocoa plantations. We visited cocoa country to see where the problems start and to understand some possible solutions. Evans Kanubi cracks open the pods to extract the sweet, slimy bean, which at this stage has a flavor like lychee fruit.
And it tastes good.
I saw you eating a few of them earlier.
While there are perks, high pay is not among them.
Do you feel like you make enough money to have a decent living?
No.
The average cocoa farmer in Ghana earns less than $2 a day, and it's labor-intensive work. Once the cocoa is collected, it's left to ferment under banana leaves for about 7 days, then is laid out in the sun to dry. Stephen Ashia has been farming cocoa for 14 years and says he barely breaks even.
At the end, you'll buy chocolate bars?
No, mostly I don't buy chocolates. The money we have, it will better I use it to buy heavy foods rather than buy chocolate that cannot fill my belly to come and work.
You don't make enough money to afford chocolate.
Yeah.
That's a bitter reality Dutch chocolate maker Tony's Chocolonely is confronting.
Nobody needs chocolate. And to me, it's really unacceptable that in something that's a luxury, that's a gift, that people accept that there's extreme poverty at the beginning of that supply chain.
Paul Schoenmakers led sustainability programs for Tony's Chocolonely until last month. The company's name nods to its lonely place in this fight against exploitation.
The two main problems are illegal labor and massive deforestation, and both of them are driven by poverty. What our program aims to do is help farmers enable earn a living income, and with that we take away the root cause of the issues in cocoa.
They took us to see schools they help support, a common way many big chocolate companies claim to be giving back. But Schoenmakers underlined that this, what he called charity, is not enough. boosting real incomes is essential. He says the price most chocolate companies are paying for raw cocoa here, a price set by the government, is too low compared to what farmers need to live.
We calculate how big the gap is between the government set price and the living income price, and we pay that gap as an extra premium.
For the spring harvest, the premium was about $63 higher than what's set by the government, meaning Tony's paid almost double for each bag of beans. Tony's also implemented a tracing system to follow the beans through their supply chain. Tifolis Abaka monitors this step.
So knowing that you'll be held responsible for whatever happens to your beans, it will help you to do the right thing.
Can you calculate how many chocolate bars you can make from a bag like this of cocoa?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really depends on the type of chocolate. So a dark chocolate bar would contain more cocoa than a milk chocolate bar. But on average, a Tony's bar, 300 to 500 bars from one bag.
300 to 500 bars?
But farmers were getting just $80 for each of these bags of cocoa.
We're almost doubling that, and it's still only a small fraction of the retail price. There's no chocolate company will go bankrupt on that, but it will mean the whole world of a difference for cocoa farmers.
After it is fully dry, the flavor will come.
You start smelling the chocolate.
Yeah.
We met Gifty Narki drying cocoa beans for one of the farmer cooperatives selling to Tony's.
My parents were doing.
How about your grandparents?
They too.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about their parents?
They too.
So your great-great-parents, your grandparents,
They are all
your parents,
cocoa farmers.
all cocoa farmers,
Yeah.
and now you.
Yes.
She told us she used some of the extra money Tony's pays to make a capital investment. She needs a second job.
At first, I don't have machine to sew, but now I have got some machine to sew.
Because you got extra money.
Yes.
And from Tony's?
Yes.
Working through these cooperatives, Tony's tries to build the relationships needed to identify and root out problems.
Right on the bar, it says, "We exist to end modern slavery and illegal child labor in the chocolate industry." It's a goal, but not a guarantee. We cannot do this on our own. We have to develop a model that is replicable and scalable, so all other chocolate companies can do the same as we do. But if I buy this piece of chocolate, can you guarantee that there's not child labor involved? So if you buy chocolate from Tony Chocolonely, then you know that we search for child labor. Search, but can't promise that it's not part of the chain somewhere. And we find child labor. We're also transparent about the child labor cases that we find, but it's good that we find it because that's a start of solving it.
Next season, the Ghanaian government is raising the price of cocoa as part of an effort to combat smuggling, illegal gold mining on cocoa plantations, and, of course, child labor. At 57 Chocolate, Kimberly Addison is trying her own way to keep more profits in Ghana through controlling the production of chocolate.
Shouldn't we be adding value to that cocoa in country, consuming it in country, and then also making it available globally?
But there are challenges you'd probably never think of in this cocoa-producing country. There's the melting heat, inconsistent electricity, and problems finding raw materials like sugar and milk. Still, Addison joins a handful of other small companies working to cultivate and profit from the growing taste for chocolate here. The prominent black leaders and Ghanaian independence figures featured on their bars are a reminder of the spirit and potential of this place.
There's so much value here on the continent. Where there are problems, there are huge opportunities. And what we're doing at 57 is we've seen a problem with something as small as the cocoa bean, and we've turned it into an opportunity.
Hanukkah is a holiday rich with traditions. Serena Altschul tells us about one particularly sweet one, the donut.
When the sun sets tonight, families around the world will gather to celebrate the Festival of Lights. They'll light a menorah, maybe open gifts, but for some, the beginning of Hanukkah means the end to a year-long wait.
When did they start asking for jelly donuts and sufganiyat?
Summer.
Summer.
Yeah, seriously.
You won't find any holes in this fried treat. Hanukkah donuts, or sufganiyot, are filled and topped. Berry jam and powdered sugar are traditional finishes. But at Adir Makali's namesake bakery in New York City, he's mixing things up.
So other than the classic strawberry jam, we have the dulce de leche. We have the pistachio cream topped with some strawberry. We have the halva cream. We have the hazelnut. It's hazelnut and milk chocolate. Kids would love that.
Adults and kids alike line up for the treats.
Can I get one of the sufganiyot, please?
This year, Makali expects to sell over 20,000 of his sweet delights during the holiday. Hanukkah commemorates the military victory of the Maccabees over the Syrian Greek army. But the real miracle, the oil-burning menorah in the besieged temple, continued to shine for 8 days, even though, according to the story, there was only enough oil to last one. We've long had the latke, or potato pancake, to remember the marvel. Sufganiyot came much later, according to culinary history expert Avery Robinson.
The jelly donut came into the Hanukkah celebration as the sufganiyah about 100 years ago in the 1920s.
So it's new.
It's pretty new. All things considered, it is a very new thing.
Sufganiyot may be new, but its origins go way back.
The earliest compilation of rabbinic texts, the Mishnah, which was redacted and compiled around 200 CE, there is a discussion about different types of dough.
Discussion, but no definition, until Israeli bakeries years later decided to borrow a tradition they had seen popularized elsewhere.
So when Jews were living in Central Europe in the 19th and early 20th century, and these Jews came to Israel as bakers, or pre-state Israel as bakers, they came with this knowledge and tradition and understanding of these donuts around them.
To make it work for the Jewish holiday, a few things had to change.
So many of those donuts may have been cooked in lard, but we will cook them in oil because that's what we're supposed to do on Hanukkah. If there's one thing that we're supposed to do on Hanukkah that's not like candles, it is oil.
And that's how it's been done ever since. The method for making these is precise. Each donut here is weighed, hand-rolled, and meticulously topped. The process takes almost 3 hours for Makali, though there is a little room for some fun.
But I'm going to make a big mess.
Make a mess. It's all about mess, Hanukkah.
How much sugar do you like?
As much as you can put.
Oh, make it snow.
I would double that.
You would?
Yeah.
Double it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
With each bite, a burst of flavor, a celebration, and a reminder of those 8 special nights.
One a day?
More than one.
More than one. Balance, right? Donuts, balance with a little exercise.
There is no balance with donuts, but but balance it in general. Cheers.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Mardi Gras. It offers us a brief diversion from the less than happy events of the day. So we sent our Chris Van Cleve to the Big Easy to dig into Fat Tuesday's favorite food, the royal dessert they call the king cake.
It's not as if New Orleanians ever needed an excuse to party. But after 2 years of COVID, the 2 months of indulgence known as Carnival,
the Crew de Jeanne d'Arc hereby declares that Carnival has commenced.
seemed pretty well deserved. After being canceled last year, Mardi Gras is back. The parades, the costumes, and the king cake, a traditional sweet treat eaten only at carnival time in the Crescent City.
Every Friday at school, kids are eating king cake. Every day in office break rooms, out on the parade route with your friends and family. King cake is everywhere.
When writer Matt Haynes moved from New York to New Orleans 5 years ago, he was determined
to find the very best king cake in town.
Started to do some research and I realized, God, there are hundreds and hundreds of cakes out there. So I figured I would try them all. I ended up having like 88 of them that year.
I'm curious, what made you go, I need to eat 88 king cakes this Mardi Gras season?
Yeah, I would have done more, but Carnival only lasts so long.
He turned all that caloric heavy lifting into what he says is the first ever book about king cakes.
I'm not sure everyone realizes how diverse of a place New Orleans is. Every single cake has a unique baker who has a unique story.
And every cake is an extension of that story. The king cake dates back centuries to an ancient Roman festival celebrating the solstice. Adopted by Christianity, versions are still found throughout the world. Most Louisiana king cakes are adorned with purple, green, and gold. And almost all of them come with a tiny plastic baby.
Whoever gets the baby has to bring the next cake.
Have a good one.
You too.
That is a great tradition for you guys.
Correct.
Every one of these cakes that goes out, somebody should be ordering another one.
Yep.
Every carnival season, the Kaywood brothers, Nick and Kenny Jr., along with the rest of their family at Kaywood and Randazzo's, knead, braid, fill, bake, ice, and pack 50,000 cakes, with 50,000 babies hidden inside. Pretty hard work for the Big Easy, but they sell enough king cakes during Mardi Gras to close for the rest of the year.
When king cake season is done, what do you do?
Vacation.
Yeah.
We go fishing and
For 9 months?
Yeah.
4 months, and then hunting the other 3 months.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah, I'm in the wrong business.
Just down the road at Dong Fong Bakery, they're working around the clock under the watchful eye of founder Hung Tran. Tran fled Vietnam after the war and settled in New Orleans. Her daughter Lynn suggested they start selling king cakes after Katrina.
We wanted to give our community, the Vietnamese community, an option. Say, hey, yes, you got the baby, we're gonna go get a king cake from Dong Fong, and you can bring it in and you can be proud of it.
That first year, they sold only about 100.
2 per person.
Now, they can barely keep up. In 2018, the bakery became king cake royalty, earning the prestigious James Beard Award.
Thank you. Last almond.
Do you ever wonder who eats all of this cake?
I do sometimes.
It's estimated New Orleanians eat about 750,000 king cakes every year. Not so hard to believe when you consider everything that qualifies as a king cake.
We have a non-traditional king cake, so there are no rules over here.
At her La Vie en Rose Cafe, Kirby Jones pays homage to her Creole roots with 2 offerings, a sweet rose-flavored cake and a savory cake stuffed with crawfish.
Do you get challenged because this doesn't look like a king cake?
Sure, yeah, so that's why we have these fun names for them. The Rose Queen Cake, and this here we call the Don Creole.
While working on his book, writer Matt Haynes discovered endless ways bakers can make a king cake, but only one way to eat them, with a whole lot of people.
You're not supposed to eat king cakes by yourself, you're supposed to share it. The cakes are delicious, but the fun part about it is sharing carnival season with everybody. That's what makes it special. That's what normal is in New Orleans, and it feels like we're heading back in that direction.
I believe I'll go back home.
What better day for a story as American as apple pie, served up by our Califasene.
In America and in movies and books that I read, everybody went on road trips.
2, please.
Yeah, right over there. Everybody stopped at diners and got slices of pie.
Chef and apple a la mode.
But I'd like the pie heated, and I don't want the ice cream on top. I want it on the side.
While growing up in Hong Kong, Stacy Mei Yanfeng fell in love with America and pie.
I was just like, I want to do that. I want to go on road trips. I want to move to America. I want to eat pie like every 2 hours when I need to use the restroom.
In 2016, after 11 years of eating pie in New York City, Fong wanted to know more about the rest of the country.
And I was like, oh my God, I could learn about America through pie.
She launched a project called 50 Pies for 50 States.
I bake a pie for every single state because this project really is like a love letter to the country that I've chosen to call home.
Some pies are unusual, like her Oregon Marionberry and pear pie.
It's a hybrid or a type of blackberry.
Some are more traditional, like Kentucky's Derby pie.
A Derby pie is kind of like a pecan pie, but it's walnuts and chocolate in it.
And Tennessee got the star treatment.
Dolly Parton is like the love of my life.
Has she seen this?
I don't think so, but I would absolutely lose my mind to meet her. So yeah, I had to make her out of pie.
Pies in other parts of the world tend to be savory and part of the main course. In America, pies are more likely fruit-filled and served as dessert. And something about pies makes Americans nostalgic.
Whenever my project gets brought up, or if I start talking to someone, they've only talked about like a good memory they've had associated to pie. Like, my mom made me pie, there was pie at a holiday, pie reminds me of home.
One pie has achieved all-American status.
Why do you think it is that apple, out of all the different pies you could bake, why do you think that one has this position in this country?
An apple pie is always filled like so high, right? It's like a symbol of this country's bounty and like what this country has to offer.
We really get in there.
It's like a pregnant belly. You really want to have that perfect round, tuck in any edges that are sticking out so that it doesn't poke through the crust.
I felt this one kick.
Yeah, so it did not kick.
When it comes to apple pies,
if you spend enough time hanging out at a restaurant, if you're really lucky, you can end up marrying the owner. Is this true?
It's true.
I am not a neutral observer.
You're an expert, right?
I am.
And?
Your wife.
My wife. I came to talk to you at work.
Sounds good. The ticket to crimping is this.
This.
Sarah Sene has been making award-winning pies
So crimp, crimp, crimp.
for 15 years at her fried chicken shop, Pies and Thighs, in Brooklyn.
If your restaurant had just been called Thighs instead of Pies and Thighs, would people have not felt like they needed to order pie?
Absolutely. This is a lesson in marketing.
The apple pie story is partly a marketing story. The idea that apples were all American took hold in the 1700s in the American colonies.
We have a lot of apples.
They're not native to America,
They're
right?
not native. They were planted and originally planted for cider.
In the 1800s, an evangelist known as Johnny Appleseed encouraged Americans to plant more apple trees, and some of those apples found their way into pie. And during World War II, people started saying, "As American as Mom and apple pie." The simple dessert had become a national tradition and a symbol of American pride.
That's a funny thing about apple pie. It has already achieved perfection. So if you go to the finest restaurant or you go to a diner, there's no like better version of apple pie than apple pie.
Sarah's version starts with a generous helping of Granny Smith apples.
Supermarket apple pies are really flat.
Yeah.
And they fit in those white boxes. Yours,
do.
you need like a wedding cake box.
I like a gap. I like to see the apples were really domed and then they cook down and that the crust has enough structure to like maintain itself without the apples. When you're cutting into a pie, honestly, if you're gonna keep it perfect, the best way to cut it is with scissors, not with a knife. Should we cut one open?
Let's cut one open. Once the scissors have cut the top bit, you use your knife to go all the way down through the bottom bit.
Exactly. This is exactly what we want. It's great.
There it is.
There it is.
This is meant to be eaten with a utensil.
It is. And I think a scoop.
A scoop a la mode.
A la mode.
The magical word that means, give me ice cream.
It's so good. Delightful. It's so
As
good.
we celebrate July 4th, both Sarah Sene and Stacey Mayan Fong agree you can't go wrong with apple pie. But then again, America is all about options.
What would be your second choice?
Cherry pie. You don't want a cream pie at 4th of July, so I would do cherry pie. Still a classic American fruit.
Do you think it's time for our 4th of July pie to change?
It could be whatever you want. Like 4th of July is your holiday and you can do whatever you want.
Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
Pies that take the cake. But don't take our word for it. Connor Knighton has proof.
This is Lauren Coe. This is Lauren Coe's Kitchen. And this is the popular Instagram account Loco Kitchen, where Coe posts photos of the gorgeous pies and tarts she whips up at home in Seattle.
Initially, I got into it really for the design of it. I loved creating. I've always had an appreciation for art and good design, and it just so happened that pie was a really great medium.
A great edible medium. Coe, who has zero culinary training and baked her first pie just 4 years ago, turns a few simple ingredients into complex works of art. It all began with this photo of a peach pie. Coe only had 100 or so followers at the time, but the picture got 5 times as many likes.
So where did those likes come from? Who were they?
I have no idea. Maybe they were bots or trolls and thought maybe I should put my account back on private.
But Coe kept posting, and the likes kept coming. People were sharing her designs. She now has more than 350,000 followers.
It was mostly just kind of overwhelming. I'm pretty shy, I'm pretty introverted.
Coe struck a chord with her bright colors, repetitive patterns, and clean lines. It's a unique style she calls pieometry.
I feel like it kind of encapsulates this genre of modern pie art that I've kind of pioneered. Is that bad? I know, there's something very demoralizing about saying puns out loud, even though I write them so often.
Yeah, we need to talk about the puns. I'm glad you went there.
Coe's captions, "Eat your tart out, all strings considered," are always pie pun hot. Since her first post contained a pun, Coe figured she shouldn't mess with a good thing.
People responded so well to that post, I thought, are they responding to the pie? Are they responding to the caption? Maybe both together? So I just kind of kept going in that vein.
It's not all jokes, though. Last year, Coe collaborated with ad agency BBDO on a series called My American Pie, creating pies inspired by a diverse array of American experiences.
I got to make a pie inspired by their story, by their heritage, by kind of the things that they shared.
This pie, blue and white like the Honduran flag and Chinese porcelain, represents Coe's American experience as the daughter of Honduran and Chinese immigrants. It's photographed in its unbaked state. Coe does that a lot with her work, a choice she's learned can elicit some crusty reactions. Critics feel like that's somehow cheating.
Obviously, the designs are most pristine before they go in the oven. And I kind of personally feel like the transformation of an art piece doesn't really take away from its aesthetics or its kind of value, even if it changes along its journey.
Which, in fairness, if you put a Van Gogh in the oven, it's going to look different too.
Yeah, and that's what I say. If I sit in the oven for an hour at 400 degrees, I'm going to look a little bit different when I come out.
Now those curious about what Coe's designs look like baked can find out for themselves. She recently released a pieometry cookbook. Pie art is now a full-time job for her.
One of the biggest ironies of this journey is that I don't really have a sweet tooth, and I don't actually love eating pies all that much.
So, Coe gives away most of her creations to friends via an email list she's dubbed the Pipeline. It may be art, but it's still meant to be eaten.
Especially in this year where we're not having a lot of person-to-person interactions, it's been a good way to kind of share what I'm making and bringing a little bit of joy to people around me.
Looking for a way to put all that time stuck inside to good use? Martha Stewart has an idea, a recipe from her latest cookbook, Martha Stewart's Cookie Perfection.
Hi everyone. I'm cooped up in my kitchen in my yard just like all of you. But I try to make the best of this horrific time by cooking, by crafting, by gardening, by doing all the things I actually really love to do and sometimes don't have enough time to do it. Baking is one of my favorite pastimes, and today I want to show you how to make one of my very, very, very favorite cookies. It's called the kitchen sink cookie. It's a big cookie. One cookie should last you all day long. And although you might not have every ingredient in your pantry, if you don't, you can substitute nuts for nuts, dried fruits for dried fruits. Let's get going. Let's get baking. start by creaming the butter with the sugar. There, that goes in. I have everything in what I call mise en place, put in place, because I want to make sure that I have all my ingredients before I start to bake. Oh, and by the way, did I mention? Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Always have a rubber scraper. Big Martha, my mom, taught me about rubber scrapers, and they're really great. A good habit to get into to scrape down the bowl. It is a very sturdy dough, so it takes a lot of elbow grease, but you can make this by hand if you don't have a mixer. What did our forefathers do? They didn't have electric mixers, and they made cookies. And while the machine is running, add 2 large eggs. I am so lucky. I have chickens in my backyard, and I collect the eggs every single day. Yesterday we got 68 eggs. I was so happy. And then sift your dry ingredients. We're using a white unbleached flour. Oh, 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I hope I have enough. We don't want to run out of anything during this pandemic. So check your pantry all the time, because you don't know how long we're going to be confined to our homes. And I am going to add on low speed the flour. Oatmeal first, unsweetened coconut. That can go in there. I guess I could add the pecans. Do you say pecans or pecans? Sharing cookies is a real joy. I can leave a basket of these cookies on doorsteps here and there in the neighborhood. Dennis Leary lives across the street, and he's always up for a bunch of cookies, as is the great chef Daniel Ballou. This looks so good. I'm gonna taste it. I'm a cookie dough fanatic, and I love to taste my cookie doughs. I will not do that on TV though. In go the apricots, dried cherries. Oh, so good. And the chocolate. Can you get a good picture of that? Look how good this looks. Bake until they are just slightly brown around the edges. When they come out of the oven, first of all, your kitchen smells so good. And secondly, the cookies taste so good. All of you at CBS, you're going to love these cookies. I hope you enjoy baking as much as I do. And you know what? We're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. And please, bake, cook, enjoy as much as you can this time with your family. See you soon.
Talk about just desserts. Holly Williams has found a city full of them.
On the shores of the Bosphorus, the strait of water that divides Europe on one bank from Asia on the other, sits Istanbul. It's now an overcrowded Turkish city of 15 million people, a place where tradition and modernity rub shoulders. But for nearly 500 years, Istanbul was the capital of the Ottoman Empire, a colossus that stretched from the Arabian Gulf across North Africa and into Greece and Eastern Europe. And though the empire collapsed in the flames of the First World War, in Istanbul, Ottoman traditions still live on, including in the kitchen, and especially when it comes to anything sweet. Baklava is still eaten in nearly all the lands the Ottomans conquered. And the members of the Guluolu family are the most famous baklava bakers in Turkey. Murat Guluolu, who just graduated with a degree in international relations, is a 6th-generation baklava maker.
Baklava making was my kind of destiny, and also my passion, because I have been doing this since I was like 5 or 6. I never considered somewhere else to work.
Between paper-thin layers of filo pastry, they sandwich crushed pistachios grown in southern Turkey. After 30 minutes in a scorching oven, the baklava's doused with boiling hot syrup.
it's been known from the 11th century written dictionary that Turks have been dealing with filo pastries.
But that's 1,000 years ago.
Almost 1,000 years ago. It can be even before that.
But the Ottomans also discovered new temptations, and one of them can still be found in the shadows of this 1,600-year-old aqueduct. It's thought that kunefe was first savoured in the Arab cities of the Levant. It's made from angel's hair pastry with a heart of sticky, unsalted goat's cheese. Traditionally, it was cooked over a charcoal brazier. But in Ferhat Tain's busy working men's diner, he uses 10 gas burners to keep the kunefes coming thick and fast, all topped with a dollop of vanilla ice cream and a sprinkle of pistachios. It's incredibly calorific, and Ferhat told us that in the interests of his waistline, he limits himself to just one kunefe a day. But it wasn't just indulgent sweets that the Turks brought home from the far corners of their empire. The Ottoman ruler, the Sultan, collected women for his harem, and the harem needed to eat. We journeyed down the Bosphorus, past old Ottoman palaces and fortresses, to find a dessert that, according to Turkish legend, was invented and served in the Sultan's harem. Sutish is an Istanbul institution. The restaurant is famous for its rich and creamy desserts. And Kazandibi is the queen of them all. It's a sticky, sugary milk pudding which, bizarrely, is made from chicken.
Hi, Holly, how are we doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine.
Gökçen Celan is a gourmet tour guide who took us to see how it's made.
This is our usta, Ayhan, who already pre-boiled the chicken.
Such a strange idea to take a chicken and think you're going to make a milk pudding out of it.
If you look at the Ottoman cuisine, that is basically one of the first fusion kitchens in the world. So you got guys from, let's just say, from Arab Peninsula, from Russia, from Africa, from Europe, all these chefs combining their knowledge and skills and come up with these interesting stuff.
The chicken's combined with rice flour and sugar, boiled in a vat of buffalo milk for 2 hours, and then cooked in a tray sprinkled with sugar, so its top is perfectly caramelized.
We're in for a treat
so
here.
Sticky.
It's good, isn't it?
The sun set on the Ottomans in 1922, and modern Turkey rose from the ashes. But in the kitchens of Istanbul, sweet memories of an old empire linger on.
What's the latest scoop? Ice cream in rolls.
The ice cream gets rolled up right before your eyes.
It is very cool. In fact, it's downright freezing.
It could be anywhere between -15 and -20 degrees.
20-year-old Kyle Billig and his 22-year-old brother Jacob opened Sweet Charlie's about a year and a half ago.
You are a good little dog, aren't you?
This is Charlie.
Oh.
They were convinced that Philadelphia would melt over rolled ice cream.
The flavors that you can make are endless.
Endless and creative.
Fresh banana and Nutella.
Like Monkey See, Monkey Do.
Oh boy.
There's some more, please, with roasted marshmallows.
Here we have a glazed donut.
Or, if you're a morning person,
some ground coffee right here.
Sounds like breakfast.
The perfect rolls are just the end of the show. It starts with elaborate chopping and mixing, blending, spreading it all out like plaster.
Oh.
And at exactly the right moment,
perfect.
Voila!
Done this a few times, have you? Look at that.
Perfection isn't cheap.
Ooh, thank you.
That is $7. The brothers got the idea from a YouTube video like this one of a street vendor in Thailand, where the craze already had taken off. They became obsessed with trying to make it themselves.
What were those early efforts like?
It was a lot of messy, a lot of trial and error.
Things are sticking. This is not good.
And certainly not as easy as it looks.
Uh-oh. You're not going to hire me.
Sweet Charlie's is now a franchise with 6 stores up and running.
How long would you say it was until you were completely confident, hey, this really is going to work?
When the lines kept coming, we started seeing the same faces, and
customers are getting fatter and fatter.
They are milking this craze for all it's worth.
Get together, let the good time roll.